Live from the Green Room Studios, from the spacious property of Bates Nursery and Garden Center, 3810 Whites Creek Pike, it's the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates.
Oh, welcome in, everybody. Calm down. Gosh, what are you going to do with these people in here this morning? All right, folks, it's Saturday morning. You know what time it is. It's time for the At Home Show. It's your Saturday morning tradition, and it comes to you alive here from the Green Room Studios at Bates Nursery and Garden Center. I am Josh Cary. To my right.
I am David Bates.
Yes, you are to my right.
Yep.
Looking good. We've got the whole cast. We've got the whole crew. We've got some walking wounded.
Today, we're going to get right on with the weather because we have a forecast that is worth reporting.
Yes.
And after a week of rain, we've got largely a week of sunshine. And it's starting off partly cloudy today, but sunshine will prevail. 79 degrees, which sounds absolutely fabulous for Memorial Day weekend. So it's a great start. Sunday, 87 degrees and sunshine, glorious sunshine. Monday, Memorial Day, 90 degrees. Sunny conditions, 92 Tuesday, 92 Wednesday, a little cooler and a chance of thunderstorms on Thursday. And so we head into next weekend a little cooler, still some clouds and sun. But currently it's about 62 degrees here in the Music City, and it really is going to be a wonderful weekend for whatever you're getting into out and about.
It's a no excuses weekend. You got to get something done. Got to get everything out and about, and so you can get ready, so you can have a nice barbecue maybe on Monday, maybe on Sunday too, and to see what else
Speaking
is going.
Of
Monday, yes,
we'll be open on Monday, but only from 9 a.m. until noon. So if you're planning on coming out on Monday, we'll welcome you, but if you come afternoon, we won't be here. So that's the way that goes. And also we've got a big promotion going on for our Bates Rewards members this weekend. For every $100 worth of stuff you buy, you get a free bag of Earth Mix Garden. And we're happy to bestow that upon you in our way of saying thanks. So come on out and see us today, tomorrow, or 9 to noon on Monday. And while that little Bates Rewards appreciation events going on.
But what if you're not a Bates Rewards member, David Bates?
Well, it's a very detailed process. You have to sign up. It takes about 30 seconds.
But you're going to sell all of my information, right?
No, we don't do that. We never have. Nope, we just don't do that. But tell you what we do, though.
What do you
While
do?
we're here in studio, it's not just Tyler, you, and myself.
No.
Across the way, we have Caroline and Austin.
Yes.
Caroline Gant, Austin Lowen, welcome in, guys. Glad to have you here today.
There we are. Hi.
We're showing today that despite not being 100%, we can be here anyway.
That's right.
You can't see his leg.
So let's just go ahead and put that out there.
What happened, Austin? Okay, Austin had a little. He's got a boo-boo.
I do. A fairly large one.
Yes.
I took a spill the other night off my wet front porch, which Josh, I wanted to talk to you about that. Actually,
Okay.
I got some old. This is the At Home Show, so it's not always plants.
Okay.
But I got some front porch steps that are steep, first off, and they're old and rickety. And got some wood on them that whenever I step on them, they want to go forward, which is what took me forward and ended up with a fractured kneecap.
Ow!
Yes,
Did you not
right.
also fall on those this winter?
That was a slip, and they were icy on that one, and that one I fell backwards, whereas this one I went forwards. I was on my way down, and one of those boards got tippy at the end, and I went down. So woke up the next
what's
morning.
Your prescription, Dr. Cary? How
Screws.
fix his status?
The very first thing you're going to do to treat the symptoms would be to secure the treads down. Now, if you've got some drywall screws or, because this is probably going to end up having to replace them. Does it feel like
I want to replace them? Yeah, I was wondering about what do you call them up underneath? What are they called? Stringers?
Stringers.
Yeah. So I kind of want to extend, make that to where my boards are wider, because the boards are not wide enough, honestly. There's two of them, two deck boards on top, and like to go either 3 or just go 2 again, but make them wider.
Well, you got to be careful with your rise and your run, as they call it, because if you make them too wide, you're gonna create a different kind of trip hazard. Mm-hmm. So a normal stair tread is about 11 1/4 inches. So that's pretty standard, pretty easy to deal with. And 2 deck boards with a little bit of space between them is usually how it's done. Mm-hmm. But first thing you do, when you get on both legs, go ahead and just grab the cordless drill and put some screws in them to start out, and then we'll talk next week. I'll get you a carpenter if you need one, because cutting a stringer is not the easiest thing in the world to do. I couldn't do it.
Can't you buy them pre-made, though?
Depends.
Well, you put screws in them. You talking about shooting them from the bottom up?
No, I'd go straight through. I'd go straight down through the deck boards. I mean, it was done for hundreds of years, so you put nails in them. But you can buy pre-cut stringers, but it sounds like you've got one that's a little too tall. I'm going to go out on a limb here, because you can usually see those in two-step rise, 3-step rise, or 5-step rise is the maximum that you usually see. Mm-hmm. But they're also expensive, so you get 1 2x12 and move on from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But cutting a stringer it's simple science, but again, it's math and it's angles and it's moving in different directions. So it's not a skill that I have, but if you pay attention to it and have a carpenter's square, you can do them. And Tyler's shaking his head here. So.
You got to find your square and then keep it right.
Keep
Otherwise,
it consistent.
everything. Yeah.
But now you've got other things, because I'm going to go out. I'm going to guess also that because if you've only got 2, you really need a third one as well. You need one in the middle and on both ends. And then a rail probably would be a good thing to have on it too.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's rails going down it.
Okay.
And I believe there is a stringer in the middle as well.
Okay.
It's just that it's just old. It's just
They do wear out, and they do get going with them. If you get real froggy and you want to move it on for just a little while longer, it's probably either nailed down or screwed down on the deck boards as you see them now. You could pull those up, remove those old fasteners, and then they make this wonderful stuff called glue. Okay, construction adhesive. It's in short supply, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. It's quite the commodity.
What isn't?
Yeah.
No, that's one of those things that is really hard, David. For us to come procure. So you're seeing all kinds of alternative foams, and it's just sticky stuff that goes in there. But if it's going to be a temporary fix, Austin, just treat the symptoms until you get to the point where you can get it all changed out. Because it's not just changing if you've got the rail's going to have to come down, the posts are going to have to come down. If you get a carpenter out there, you may look and you may want to pull that if it's steep, you may want to adjust that run and add a step or 2 even.
Yeah.
And just make it a little bit more comfortable, because what concerns me most is if daddy goes down, mama and the babies are probably going to go down pretty quick here too.
Oh, it's a concept. I've been wanting to do this since I've moved in, pretty much. It's just one of those things, it's a whole thing to do, and getting in and out of the house, that's the main entrance point of the house. So just haven't gotten around to it. And
I bet Jake would help you out. Jake's he's an at-homie from a way back, and he knows how to do that. And he's reasonable. He's cheap.
Jake and Holly.
Yeah. All right. Well, good to know.
Okay.
I have to shout out.
All right, folks. Hey, we've hit on a home improvement issue here for the first time in a while. But thank you, and thank you for the asking on that. If you got some questions, we normally get those from Caroline, because she's got those on the Instagram feed, is where a majority of the questions come through. And I hear we've got a couple. Is that correct?
That's right. We do have a few.
Okay.
Are we ready?
We are. I'm ready.
Okay.
You ready, David?
Yeah. Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
Tyler, you good?
Tyler, you
Ready? Locked and loaded.
All right.
You better be.
Fingers
'cause
on
here
the
they
button.
come.
Okay.
Oh, get it, Tyler. All right. My gardenias always die. What am I doing wrong? Sun, water. What's right for Nashville?
Did we not talk about this last week?
We had a gardenia question last week
We
about
talked about
yellowing leaves.
Yellowing, yeah.
But now this is just
If you have
general.
gardenias, you're going to have issues.
There you go.
Gardenias
But what
are
causes the issues?
a number of things. I don't know if you're growing the shrub form gardenia that's supposed to be hardy here. They're not as hardy as what you would think they would be. They can live here, don't get me wrong, but they don't look great over the winter. They tend to drop some of their leaves. Now, if you're talking about tropical gardenia that's like I said, tropical around here and does not return, it's a little bit finicky of a plant for some reason. In a pot, a lot of people have issues with it. They don't want to be wet all the time, certainly that'll cause some yellowing leaves. And then also just their canopy really shades out their interior leaves. So what you see is a lot of those interior leaves will yellow and they'll drop. So try to keep it on the dry-ish side. Let it dry out and then water fully whenever it needs it. And then give them a nice fertilizer, once or twice in the growing season, and that'll kind of keep them a little bit more healthy. That's what I think the biggest issue is the most. So try to do those, and hopefully your gardenia will be a little bit better.
Because they smell so good.
They do smell
They're
good.
incredible. They're incredible, but they are a persnickety plant. They
are.
just have problems, and if you're gonna have a gardenia, you just expect to have yellow leaves and issues with them. And if you could ever get it in a spot where it's happy, for goodness sake, don't move it.
That's right.
Just deal with it right there.
Leave it alone.
So,
All right. Here we go. Question number 2.
Okay.
What is the correct way to deal with messy, floppy daffodil foliage? And that comes from our very own Miriam. Good morning, Miriam.
Good morning.
So the best practice for the most part is to leave that ugly foliage up as long as you can. Now, I understand it looks horrible. If it's in a place that you want to look nice, you got friends coming over, whatever, it's fine to cut that off. Daffodils are very, very tough plants. They will return without a problem. So if they're yellow, laying on the ground, turning brown, let's go ahead and just remove them, clean them up, clear cut them right to the dirt, and you'll see them return next spring. They'll be fine.
I saw a post somewhere that folks actually braid them to allow the leaves to stay on a little bit longer so they can gain as much energy, and they actually braid them like your little girl's hair or your little boy's hair.
Tie them up, ponytail.
I've seen people take them and put rubber bands around them. I guess zip ties are not out of the question.
That would secure them.
I guess.
Yeah. And as long as they're green, we kind of do want to keep them up for the energy for next season. But once they do turn yellow and brown, it's a good time to go ahead and cut them.
Perfect.
Won't be long.
No.
All right. So we have a photo with our next question. Tyler, do you have it ready? Oh, no.
Well, so I ran into an issue
Oh, gosh,
with how
Tyler.
we're set up today.
Oh, okay.
So it might have to go to Josh.
Okay,
And then we
so
can throw it on the television.
I'm going to skip that question, go on to a different one as I send that photo. So best tips for Better Boy tomato plants.
Oh, gosh.
It's
well,
tomato season.
it is tomato
Here we
season,
go.
and you're growing a very vigorous hybrid. Better Boy tomato is a very improved variety. It's got a ton of disease resistance. It's a really easy plant to grow, honestly. I mean, it's one that I grow every year in the garden just because of its consistency and its uniformity. So nothing any different than any other tomato. You want to get them off the ground. You want to kind of limb up some of those lower limbs to get them away from the dirt, and just keep them staked upright and let them do their thing pretty much. I mean, not much extra than any other tomato. It's a pretty easy one to grow.
Yeah, Better Boys was the go-to of my father-in-law for years and years and years and years.
It's a good plant for sure.
It's always interesting to me to see how people forget from one year to the next that tomatoes are a vine, and if you have a little cage, and we sell them, a lot of places you can get these little cages that are 3 feet tall. That's just like a starter thing. You got to have a lot more support if you're going to keep them off the ground. A lot of people have used wooden stakes. Even the 6-foot stake, they'll overgrow that. So it takes quite a lot of work all along the growing season to keep those tomatoes staked sufficiently enough so you don't have fruit all over the ground, and it tends to rot when that's the case.
Yeah, and Better
It's
Boys.
also easy for the other varmints to get to it, rabbits in particular.
Wabbits.
Yeah.
Yes, those things. I think I'm growing Better Boy tomatoes this year, although I can't really remember.
You
So.
got one, I remember.
I did?
Yes.
I'm glad you know my garden better than I do.
I know what tomatoes people buy. That's kind of my thing. Hey,
think I have
Tyler?
3.
We have something. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say we have a webinar, Tyler, about tomatoes coming up soon.
Yes, catch up on tomatoes.
Catch up
Oh,
on tomatoes.
tomatoes.
God, you're
Dun,
clever.
dun.
Oh,
I love it.
we tried to. That's how we do it. That's our outlet for our puns.
It is. We've got some great webinars coming up next month, which is almost here.
Yes, that schedule will be published next week. So be looking forward to that. and check the webinar page on the Bates Nursery website for any updates regarding that.
And Tyler also does a good job of coordinating with me, and I try to put links to the various things that have just gone up so that you have an opportunity just to click on it right in the newsletter and get to see those. And I know Caroline, Austin, and Ben, all three had webinars this week. So
I'm
Yes.
going to go out on a limb and say that this one will be the most successful so far because of the nature of the subject that you're covering.
Oh, all of Austin's tomato videos are exquisite.
I'm gonna
Or money,
I
yep.
get excited about them tomatoes. It's time. Mine are
Yeah.
getting big. Mine are, after this rain. You know, I put my garden in a week before we got rain. Literally like 7 or 8 days of putting in a garden in the ground. You know, no added dirt or anything. Just use what I own. And I did not get a drop of rain for I believe it was 8 or 9 days. So my tomatoes just sat. Peppers just sat. I mean, things. It was dry. I was out there watering. I rarely have to water. My garden stays fairly moist, so I don't really have to. But I did this time. And then after we got this rain, though, those tomatoes jumped. I swear they jumped. I mean, a foot and a half just this week. So they're starting to get tall, bushing out a little bit. I got to get in there and start, like I said, removing some of those lower leaves, taking some of those suckers that I don't want, and get them all staked up and get ready for growing. It's getting warm.
Austin,
I love
let's
it.
talk about what suckers are for a minute. A lot of people go, wait, is that just
Sucker!
like some slang term? Yeah, get them suckers off there. You know?
Sucker!
It's, the word is SUCCOR. And so explain to people who have grown tobacco for years are very familiar with what suckers
Boy,
are.
howdy.
Tomatoes also have them.
Yes, they do. So with tomatoes, there's a main stem in the center. You've got a horizontal stem that goes this way, and then you've got this angle right in the middle. In between that is where a sucker stem will form. And you can certainly leave your sucker stems and make a very bushy plant. I don't like to do that all as much just because I like to keep them a little bit cleaner and a little bit more airflow within. So what I do is keep the main stem, and then I'll pick and choose about 3 or 4 of those other suckers to keep, and I will keep those staked up, and then I will remove any of the other suckers that come from in between that, what we call crotch angle, and get rid of those, keep the ones I want, keep them staked up, and create some more airflow kind of within the plant. Now, do know, if you sucker your plant like I do, or if you even sucker down to one main stem, which you can do, a lot of people do it that way, you have much less disease issues whenever you do that. But you are going to lessen your fruit, so know that. You know, with less stems and less flowers, you're going to produce less fruit. So know that. You can keep all the suckers you want. You know, I know plenty of people that don't sucker at all. They just leave it as bushy as can be, and you get a lot of fruit that way. As long as your plant doesn't get, you know, disease issues and pest issues. More leaves and less airflow means more you know, potential for disease and pests. So
Wow. How many tomato plants did you plant this year?
I've got 12 this year, and
Okay.
I've got them on a 4. So I did them in 4 rows of 3 with 2 T-posts at the end of them, and I put the old Florida weave on it.
Oh, sounds
Anybody know what that
fancy.
means?
Excuse
Well, it
me.
looks
I
like
do,
we've
just
got
'cause you
your,
told me last week.
Image up on the board here, Caroline. So what is the question associated with this?
Well, I really want to hear what a Florida weave is
Yeah, so do
before
I.
we go to that.
The Florida weave. I did this in college. It's just a staking method for tomatoes, to where if you have them in a row, you can use. You can get a ball of twine. You can get this at a hardware store, TSC, whatever, and you tie it off to the post, and then you wrap it around the one tomato, then you go around the other one the other way, and the other one the other way, wrap around the post, and then you go opposite of that. So you go back around the opposite way that you just did, and then tie it off. And what that does is creates like a pinch point in between 2 deals of twine. So you got the main stem in between twine. It's kind of hard to explain without pictures, but I'll have to get you some pictures next week to let you see. But it's a cool little method to do.
Sure it is.
And you got to keep doing it. You know, as the tomato grows, you have to put a new line in, and you weave it out in between them, like I said. And you do that the whole way up. So I've got, I got 7-foot T-posts and dropped them in about 1.5 feet. So you're talking, I don't know, close to 6-foot T-post to where I could run line all the way up if I had to. And yeah, it's just the method I chose this year. Sometimes I'll do a single stake. Sometimes I'll make my own cages, and I just play with it. There's all sorts of ways to keep your tomatoes up. So we'll go through that next week.
That's amazing. I haven't figured out how
It
I'm
would
gonna
work
stake
for
mine.
beans too, wouldn't it? I mean, would that work for beans kind of?
For pole beans, I guess
Yeah.
you could do that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, I notice folks, and listen with both ears. He said twine. You're not going to be tempted to try to do something with like metal or
Wire,
because you think wire because you think it's going to be stronger because it's really not at the end of the day. So,
and it's hard to work with.
Yep.
Twine's much easier to fool around with. You can get it. I mean, it's cheap. I got mine at TSC. It's a big old ball of twine. It comes out nice and even. You can just kind of roll it around on the ground if you even have to, just to unload it. So yeah, simple twine. I think they call it butcher twine.
Yeah, there's a thing called that.
And jute, we sell that.
Hemp.
Lots of different kinds.
What
All right,
you talking about?
so here we go.
So what we got here?
We have
What
this
do we got
photo
here?
up, as you can see behind Tyler's head. And the question is, have some holes and brown spots on limelight hydrangea. So I believe they would like a little help with that.
It's about that time. I've got a hydrangea tree that literally has the exact same damage as what I'm seeing on yours right now. And mainly the culprit is going to be flea beetle, which really likes panicle hydrangeas. We have to deal with that little bitty black bugs that jump around the plant. They can cause that damage, but usually it's more holes. They'll eat for a second and then they'll wear out a hole. So you have minimal damage on your plant. I will say
So
that.
far,
Yeah, so far. Check your plant, backsides of the leaves, especially during the hot part of the days when flea beetles are mostly active. Check the backsides of the leaves. Get on in that foliage and look at it and see what you can find. If you see a number of insects, then a spray may be needed. But at this point, that damage is very minimal on the whole plant. So you can either cut that off if it's unsightly, but it'll probably still bloom from that stem even without doing anything. So keep an eye on it. You can pluck those leaves off if you want to as well. But damage is minimal now. But like Josh said, now you can get bad if you don't do anything.
Well, I can see if you look in the picture in the back here, or if you can see where I'm spinning it, there's one, looks like there's something starting here, and then we've got a little bit more over here as well. So would you spray with just water to start with, or would you go with neem or some insecticidal soap?
No, actually, unfortunately, flea beetles are pretty hard to kill with the organics. So it may have to be a scenario where you go more synthetic and you try to get a spray on there. If you're going to go synthetic, we don't want to kill bees. So try to spray before they're in bloom while there's no bees active on it. And try to get rid of your problem early before they start blooming, because we don't really want to spray once they are. But Captain Jack's Dead Bug, which is the active ingredient, is spinosad. That works pretty well. Any permethrin or pyrethrins will work pretty well too. So we stock all those.
Very good. Very, very good.
Thank you, Austin.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, wonderful. I don't have
Hey,
that
if
on
we
mine
can
yet.
go
so-
back to the other screen, Tyler, and we'll take a minute, talk about one of the reasons why we're here, and that, of course, is Earth Mix Garden Products. And you see the banner behind Josh and myself. There's that. The website will be up here momentarily, and Earth Mix Garden Products is a line of soils that we've been working on for quite a while, and the whole aim is to have 100% organic and the most productive, beneficial soils you can get anywhere. And when you grow healthy plants, you grow plants that are naturally more disease and pest resistant. So if you're growing them off and doing well, the things that might bother them otherwise will be less so. So, and if you're growing things in your garden, tomatoes, whatever, certainly you don't want to be putting chemicals into your garden area. And that's where Earth Mix Garden, the flagship brand, comes into play a lot. There are also our Earth Mix Proganics O, which is a container mix for outdoor containers. Caroline will be a big proponent of both Proganics I, and she does some fertilizing of indoor plants with supernatural compost, which is a really cool way to use it. It's not sold as a fertilizer, but it actually is quite fertile. So check out that product and the entire
I'm a
line
supernatural
of
believer.
I am too.
That's what I use. Yep.
And as is the case with Mrs. Bates. So anyway, just remember that it's available all over the area. And as soon as my screen comes back up here, I'll let it go to sleep. It was me. There you go.
You went to sleep, man?
Simply go over here to the Find Earth Mix tab and click on that, and a map will come up and it'll show you locations all over the area, Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, even up into Ohio and Indiana. You can put in the box there your address, and it'll give you turn-by-turn directions to the nearest location, or you could simply zoom in the map and find one nearest you. And remember that success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix garden products, and we appreciate you giving us a moment to discuss that. So there we go.
You can get it now in the 3 regions of Tennessee.
All 3?
Yes.
Wow.
Lenore City, Meadowview Greenhouse. That's in Garden Center. That's the newest carrier of Earth Mix, and we're very happy to have them for our folks in Knoxville. And,
Nice. Absolutely.
And for people who are watching from McMinnville, it's a little bit closer, I believe.
Yes, a little bit.
Tyler, you know so much. All right, let's move on.
I got a big brain.
You have such
He's
a
got
big
his-
brain,
he's got
such a
his
big
hands in
smart brain.
everything.
He does have his hands in everything. You are right. All right, so speaking of Earth Mix Organics Indoor, we have an indoor plant question about repotting. If I can see my peace lily roots in the bottom of the container, do I have to replant or can I not? So with peace lilies, they do like to be really root bound. And if you can see the roots in the bottom of the pot, that's fine. You probably have at least another year. When a good key to know when it's time to repot peace lilies is when you're having to water almost every day. And they'll tell you if you've had that peace lily for a while, you know it'll start to kind of droop. The leaves will droop down, it'll wilt. And then when you water it, usually within like 45 minutes to an hour, the plant will be back up. So I would go ahead and give it a little bit more time before you do repot it. And then, check your watering schedule once you have to water it a lot, then I would say it's time to go ahead and pot it up. Now, when you do pot it up, Proganic Eye is fantastic. That's what I use for my peace lily. But you don't want to size up in the pot too large. A lot of people make that mistake with most of their houseplants. They'll think, when I go to repot it, if I put it in a much larger pot, then I'm not going to have to repot it for, a whole decade.
Oops.
Yes, big oops.
I oopsed.
Good. Did you?
Yeah, I think I oopsed.
I want to hear this story once I'm done with my peace lily talk for sure. When you go up too big, it kind of shocks the plant. It has too much soil and it's going to retain too much moisture and cause root rot. So I usually suggest 1 to 2 inches in diameter across the top of the pot when you go to pot it up. But yeah, you don't have to repot that peace lily anytime soon. It's probably pretty happy where it is right now. So, and now Josh, I want to hear this story.
The plant that you adopted from the Cary household, the same folks gave us, I don't believe it's a peace lily. It produces a bloom that's about this big around. It only gets one, comes up early in the spring because I had taken it in and put it in the basement and went down in the basement, turned the lights on, and one day there were 4 beautiful blooms. It was too cold to put outside, so I left it in the basement. We kept it up and went down and talked to it, and everything was great. But once it warmed up, the foliage had died back. I took the bulbs and separated them and put them into a very large container for outside. But the bulbs, Caroline, were about as big around as a baseball.
I bet you're talking about amaryllis.
Amaryllis, probably. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Sounds about right.
Would that too big of a pot issue be the same? Maybe.
Not as much as a peace lily, I would say, but I
Okay.
think it would still be an issue.
Okay.
I haven't grown a ton of amaryllis. I have 2 that I kind of neglect. I know Renee, I believe, doesn't she grow a lot of amaryllis, or am I wrong about that, David?
She does indeed grow a lot, and she's been, and she keeps them in the basement over the winter.
Yeah.
And
I think
takes
that's
them
where
out
I
and
heard the
divides
idea.
them, and she gives them away. She has some tremendous ones, and they are it was probably about a month ago when they were really at their peak. She had 10 or 12 or more of
Wow.
them. Just single
lot.
blooms, double blooms, a variety of different colors. But yes, they're easy to grow and a very colorful addition to the
They
home
seem to be
decor.
bulletproof too. Like I said,
Yeah.
they're abused. Just sit down in the basement. I actually forgot about it.
It's
They're
best to
pretty hard to kill.
forget about them. Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you put them in too big of a pot, like Caroline said earlier, they tend to stay wet, and wet with bulbs is typically not what we want. We want them way more on the dry side. So
Well, it's started. They've come back, all 4 of them. We
right.
actually ended up with 4, and I see the new growth growth coming back from where I repotted them, and I think we're going to be okay.
You're going to be good.
You did. It was probably you talking to him. You would go down in your basement and talk to him.
Well, the flowers were so gorgeous, and we have a kitty cat, and we was told not to bring it in the house because of the kitties. I had 3 at that point in time because I had the grandcats visiting. And kitties tend to try to chew on them, and I've heard that it's not the best thing for them to eat.
Mm-mm.
No, doesn't. You're right about that.
Okay, but Tyler, if we went in a second, if you could go to the input 2 again, we've had a secret message was sent via the bat phone from Kim Bradley, David Bates, and Kim wants to know how do you kill spiderwort? It's taking over multiple gardens in the same yard. Started from a little plant 5 years later, and it's not her number one enemy. Hard to dig, hard to dense root system, and resistant to all usual herbicides. What do you do,
Kim? I'm sorry, but that's just going to be hard work.
Okay.
It's just going to be hard work. It takes a while, and it's going to take multiple seasons. It's not just going to be a pull them all out and you're done type of thing. You're going to see them return. What you certainly want to do is whenever they're in bloom like that, try to make sure they're never blooming, and we're going to finish blooming so they at least don't set seed.
Right.
That can spread throughout the garden next season. So try to remove the blooms and do your best to just dig it up. I know it's hard work, but man, that is an aggressive plant.
Mm-hmm. It's terrible. I feel like mine's taking over more so this year than in the past. Seems to be a little aggressive this year.
It's a very aggressive little thing.
But there's really nothing she could do short of that. So if she digs them out, she's just going to have to replant something else.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. I mean, or at least help. The only problem is if you have any of those roots down below that are going to stay there, if you plant other things around it, what you might end up seeing is that coming back around the desirable plant. So it looks weedy still. It's a tricky one. Maybe we could try the weed eat them to the dirt and black plastic for the rest of the season, just to try to maybe kill what's down below. I'm not sure that's an exact fix, but maybe it'll be helpful for you. So there you go. I'm sorry, that's a tricky one. You got all those beautiful plants around it. I see heuchera going on, some tiarella, so I know you probably don't want to use Roundup in the bed if you can help it. And honestly, Roundup may not be all that effective with that plant anyway, just because they can spread so well under the ground. So. I'm sorry.
Sounds evil.
It's evil.
Yeah.
Kim's watching on YouTube, by the way. So if you happen to be watching on YouTube, go out there, like, subscribe, share, ring bells, do that everywhere across all social media, and spread the word about the At Home Show. Thanks, Kim.
We ain't seen Kim in a while. Kim, we need to get on out here. It's been too long. You always come and give me a great hug, and I ain't had one yet.
Believe she's gonna be showing us some of her champion hollyhocks here in the next couple of weeks. I know Tyler has been working with her, or they've been having a little conversation back and forth regarding that. So hopefully that will occur here in the next couple of weeks, and she's going to do a little Earth Mix testimonial herself.
Oh,
so we appreciate that, of course.
And I need to ask Kim if she's listening, and she could write in another comment. If she's got champion hollyhocks, I want to know, how do you keep those hollyhocks clean? Those things always get rust on the leaves for the most part, and I want to know. Are yours clean, or do you just prune off the kind of nasty stuff, or are you spraying fungicides? What's going on? If you can write us back and let me know, I want to see.
Very good. Very, very good. All right, folks. Now, last week, I adopted 2 Chicago hardy figs from Bates Nursery and Garden Center. They found a happy place at the proving grounds, and they'll be part of the above-ground garden and fig production facility now. So, as you know, I always name my plants, and especially ones that will be with me for a long, long time. So I had the idea that since they're hardy figs, that maybe Frank and Joe would be a good name. Maybe Matt and Jeff would be a good name. Frank and Joe Hardy, the Hardy Boys. Did you not read those books? There we go.
Now it makes sense.
Okay.
I was like, wow, not very original.
So as I put up that poll, I had several other suggestions, and
Laurel and Hardy.
I think they were from California. We also had Simon and Garfunkel, and I know that they were from New York City. So I mean, we know that Angus and Alexander came from I don't know, good strong names. Michael and Scotty, maybe
Michael and Scotty,
Walter Payton and Dick Butkus.
There we go.
Frickin' frack that one.
So many.
That was Stephen Pippen that suggested frickin' frack, David. I don't know about that one, but and then the Yard Boy came up with Jake and Elwood. So
that's where I got to go.
You going Jake and Elwood?
I like the blues. Give me the blues.
Okay, they're putting the band back together. Okay, all right. Do we have an opinion over there at the auxiliary table?
I like Mike and Scotty. I mean,
Mike and Scotty.
Just because.
Okay.
Just because. Yeah.
Okay.
What about Thelma and Louise?
That I'm going to vote for that one. Yep, that's it. Please name them Thelma and Louise.
I mean, they're fruit bakers, you know?
Exactly.
We don't want them to go off a cliff, though. Okay. Well, I'll think about it. We'll make the final decision and announce before we leave today. But I've got one I've got one that's really, really, really that I really like. So. Anyhow, folks, if you want to comment, you can do that also live here on Facebook, and we'll be monitoring those if you have some other ones. Kim Bradley did send another message. Did you hear the ding? It came through on the bat phone again.
What'd she say?
The client sprays them. We'll let you know what she uses.
Okay.
Okay.
I figured because Hollyhock is a rust magnet.
Mm-hmm. And she's saying that YouTube won't let her comment, so we'll have to look into that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's that all about?
Yeah. What is all that about? Hey, why don't we talk about this for just a second? See up there on the big screen, website for Bates Nursery and Garden Center. That just happens to be where we are today. There you are, and we are celebrating our 90th year of business. We're very proud of that and very fortunate to have managed to have cleared a number of hurdles over all these many decades and generations. And what we bring you at Bates Nursery Garden Center is not just the best quality and best selection of plants. We don't just provide the things to help you grow those plants the very best. I'm talking about Earth Mix garden products. But what we have really in abundance, and what I think separates us from others, is the amount of expertise we have on site. And with any of our landscape specialists, all of our staff here are all really passionate about their plants. And if they don't know the answer, they can connect you with somebody who will know the answer. And everybody, no one person knows it all, but between the group of us, we can usually come out with the right answer. So anyway, come out and see us. Take photographs of the area that you're working on. You know, Austin talks about that a lot, about how helpful that is to help us to be able to visualize what you've got going on, and to be able to figure out, are there things that need to be removed or trimmed back, and then what other things that might complement what you've already got
like
there.
Flea beetles.
Bring those with you.
Yeah.
And as I said early in the program, those who are readers of my weekly newsletter know that we're doing a big Bates Rewards appreciation thing this Memorial Day weekend. And through the end of business on Monday, which is noon on Memorial Day, we are giving you a free bag of Earth Mix Garden. That's a $6.99 value for every $100 worth of products that you purchase. It didn't have to be plants. It can be just anything. So we invite you to come out and see us. Check out all the great things we have. We still have a really excellent selection of vegetables. And if you're late getting started, it is not too late. It's really a great time. The rains from this past week have made things. Austin was talking about how his tomatoes jumped just this past week. So it's really a good time to still get out there, plant your vegetable garden or your annual flower garden or anything else. Bates Nursery and Garden Center. We are conveniently located 1 mile north of Briley Parkway at exit 19 on Whites Creek Pike, and that's just minutes from Rivergate, Opry Mills, Nashville West, downtown Nashville, and I promise you, it's worth the drive no matter where you're coming from. Check out our website right here on the big board, batesnursery.com, or give us a call, 615-876-1014, Bates Nursery and Garden Center, beautifying Nashville since 1932, and we appreciate you giving us a couple of moments there to discuss that and the force that helps us to be here every Saturday.
Hey.
So there you go. I got the gaming software thing off of the board. I don't know how that got up there, but
I poked your mouse with a fly swatter, so I probably clicked something when I did that.
Hey, everybody.
Right.
No
Hey.
harm, no foul.
Hey, Austin, what's up?
Does anybody know what's blooming around town?
What's in bloom, Austin?
Oh, what's in bloom? It's time. Okay. So let's start from last week. We still have some catalpa blooming out there. That's a long bloomer, man. They're still going. Huge, big old trees, white blooms, real pretty. One of the biggest showstoppers right now around town, which Mr. Bates has one here on at his house here on the property. It's a giant magnolia, and the magnolias are stunning right now. So if you're lucky enough to have a big one, I know you're smelling those blooms because they are fantastic. So big evergreen southern magnolia, full show right now. Another one that's in bloom, that is another tree, which a lot of people don't know about, is the Coosa dogwoods. Now, these are the non-native dogwoods. They're like what we call the Chinese dogwoods, and they're different from ours to where they bloom much later. So obviously our dogwoods have long gone, done blooming. They bloom before they leaf out. Coosa dogwoods leaf out, and then they bloom. So they're in full show pretty much around town right now. You see green foliage with like these flat kind of flowers that are tucked in the foliage. It's a beautiful plant. It's a small growing tree or even shrub, depending on how you look at it or how you prune it. So if you're seeing little shrubby white things right now, that's what you're looking at, the old Coosa dogwood. And then one that a lot of people surely don't know about, and you don't even ever notice them until right now, whenever you see big ones, is the Chinese chestnuts. Chinese chestnut. Y'all know anything about Chinese chestnut?
Nope.
Not really, no.
Not at all.
Teach
There's
us.
a big one. Okay, so when y'all leave today, take a left out of here and look on your left and see this massive rounded crown tree that's got these sprays of, I guess, the catkins is really technically what they are. So like long blooms where male and female parts are on the same bloom. And they produce Chinese chestnuts, which are, whenever they're in their capsule, it's like a spiny ball. But then once you get them out, they're pretty tasty. So Chinese chestnuts, they're really cool.
They don't smell good, however.
No, they don't smell
really
great.
stink.
No, they don't. But they're a beautiful tree when they're in bloom, especially whenever they're big.
It's a great ammo for a slingshot.
There
too.
you go.
There it is.
Uh-huh.
Man.
But
I want to. You may have others to. I want to touch for again a minute about Coosa dogwoods and what a great choice those are for individuals. And unlike your Native American dogwoods or Cornus Florida cultivars, the Chinese dogwoods are completely resistant to dogwood anthracnose, so they don't have issues with that at all. So if you're seeing some of that and you're looking for a dogwood to plant, that is a good consideration. And I really like the fact that it flowers a bit later. And, there's always, that doesn't mean you can only choose one or the other, certainly not. But
Yeah.
I think it is a great addition to any landscape. It gives you color at a time that when you're maybe not having other things in bloom.
yeah, you're right. There's not a ton of trees right now that are really in bloom, so I think I pretty much hit on most of them that are. So yeah,
Yep.
Coosa dogwood, it's a good time for it to be put in the yard. It's a nice little tree.
I've heard from our own Ben Tress that they take a little bit more sunlight than the.
Oh, they can take sun all day.
Cornus Florida.
Yeah, they can be out. One of the prettiest ones I've ever seen in my life is really close to where I live, and it is just out in the yard, full sun. It's probably 12 foot tall and every bit as wide. Looks like a big bush, to be honest with you. But when it's in show, it is stunning.
And that's
I
a
mean,
huge one.
that's a huge one. Yeah, that's big, and it's been there a long time. But I see it every year, and it is lovely. So yeah, certainly
How many
worth growing.
thousands of flowers does it have on
Oh
the bracts,
God,
I should say?
I mean, so many. It's loaded. You can't even barely see the green whenever it's in full show. So, really beautiful plant.
Josh, we got a suggestion, from Jesse on the Bates Facebook page.
Okay.
Frog and Toad.
I still like Thelma and Louise better.
Okay. Frog and
I'm
Toad.
putting it out there.
Okay.
My kids read that Buzz a Frog and
Now,
Toad
if you want to
series of
see
books.
the,
We wanna make
you want to
sure
see
that the
these?
I think it's
amphibians are
cute.
represented.
Okay. Frog and Toad.
There you go. All right, let's get back real quick to the shrubs that are blooming. I got one big shrub that's blooming for y'all. It's the start of hydrangea season.
Yes.
And the very first one to go is the big oak leaf hydrangeas, and they are really pretty right now. Speaking of David's house, he's got one at his house right now that's blooming really pretty. I noticed this morning as I pulled in.
Yep.
So they're just the start of hydrangea season. Won't be long. The others will be following, and that's the time of year we all love. And going down to a few little perennials that are blooming right now. The heuchera, I noticed. I've got some heuchera at the house. It just started blooming. It's not a real beautiful bloom or anything, but it's still fun to see them bloom atop of their foliage. foliage.
And the bees are paying visits.
Bees are paying visits. We've also got the blue salvia is really in show right now and really has been for a little while. But it's really rocking right now. And then this past week, daylilies have emerged. So there's a lot of yellow, a lot of orange out there going on. And those are some things in bloom.
Yeah, just look around your world too, folks, because I sent Austin a picture, what was it, day before yesterday, of a tree line that I came across out in the country. Absolutely covered with roses. It's absolutely stunning. I mean, it makes you stop in the middle of the road and take a picture kind of thing. So watch out what's going on.
Yeah,
definitely.
I in my garden, I've got yarrow blooming.
There's a ton of
some
perennials going.
coneflower, agastaki, hummingbird mint. It's popping off over there, and it's just going to continue.
Look at you go.
Are Deutzia out of bloom now, or are they still flowering?
Squeeze me.
Deutzia is on the way out. It's still probably showing a little bit of color, David, but they're pretty much heading out. You don't see a lot of Deutzia anymore, though. I wish people bought that plant more. It's really a pretty
That's a good
plant.
old time shrub.
It is.
It's a really good one.
Yeah, it really is for a backdrop of a perennial bed or something. It's a cool little shrub, but yeah, they're just about out.
By the way, you've got something blooming right in front of you that is stunning.
What is that? Who
you
is
tell us?
she?
Looks like
It's an orchid. Yeah.
Yes.
Made a little orchid tree in here. I decorated with all house plants because they're amazing and we have so many great ones here at the nursery right now. So here you are. We've got orchids in the middle, calathea, scindapsus, and sansevieria on this table in front of us.
Now, the trick to the orchids is sunshine or no sunshine?
They don't like a lot of direct sun. I have most of my orchids in a north-facing window, so it stays actually pretty bright in that room, but it doesn't get any direct sunlight. And I find that my orchids bloom a lot better and they're a lot happier in that spot. Now, they can take some direct sunlight, preferably not like hot afternoon sun. Probably be a little too much for them. Yeah, but
and they stay in flower for such a long time.
They do stay in flower for a while. A lot of people. Even if you get
one and you're not able to keep it going after the blooms pass, they're a great value when you compare it to any other kind of cut flower you might have that will only get maybe a week out of. You'll get many weeks out of orchids, and they are. It's another one of those things that my wife Renee grows and does a wonderful job with. It's amazing how many there are. But if you get scale on them, my suggestion is just throw them away.
Just toss it. No, that's sad. I've never had an orchid with scale before.
They are folks. You really, as pretty as they are on television, you should really see them in person. They almost look artificial because they are so perfect.
And if they're scented, it's worth the whiff.
Yeah, there's some great smelling ones. The Oncinium orchids usually smell really, really good.
It's worth a whiff. I'm going to make...
There you go. There's Tyler's new segment.
There's another flowering title for scented flowers, worth a whiff.
Speaking of flowers, Austin's webinar, Flower Power Shrubs, went up on YouTube. He mentions Deutzia, by the way, and a bunch of really great blooming shrubs that would be a great addition to any garden or landscape.
Hey, I wanted to mention something before we leave this. Is one of the bad bloomers that I sometimes mention, and right now privet, y'all, is in full show. So I wanted to give you a tip and some pointers here. When privet is in bloom is whenever it's going to be pollinated and it's going to set seed after that. So if you got some overgrown privet and it's getting big, the thing about privet is that a lot of times it's on fence lines and it gives you some privacy. It does that pretty well. So people don't like to just get rid of it. But what you can do is if you want to keep that kind of, hedge going there because it gives you privacy is whenever they're in bloom right now, let's cut every single one of those blooms off. Cut it down to by a third, cut it in half. It doesn't matter how you cut it. It's going to come back. But that will prevent you from having any of those plants set seed and then putting little seedlings all in your yard. So now's the time to prune privet and prune it severely.
Do it.
The whole ligustrum genus is really bad for that. And back in the day, and I'm in the 50s and 60s in particular, those really got planted everywhere. And if you go out, almost any part of town that got hedges, the privet hedge was just planted everywhere, and it's consequently is a major problem because people fail to do Austin, what you're talking about is to cut them back when they're in full bloom. And again, like you also mentioned, you cannot cut them back too severe. As a matter of fact, it's probably good to cut them back at least halfway back once a year anyway, and that's a good time to do it.
Mm-hmm. And they'll come back tighter for you too. And they actually make a fantastic hedge. I hate to say it, but I mean, as invasive as they are here, if you let them set seed, they're horrible. But if you maintain them, they actually make a very dense hedge. I believe in the UK they still use it extensively because I don't think they're near as invasive there. So you can see some really pretty hedgerows of ligustrum out there, but they are being maintained.
I particularly like the weeping privet for hedgerow type stuff. Those are.
Why is it weeping? Does it have a bustle in its hedgerow?
Well, who knows?
Who knows?
We'll have to go check it out.
Alrighty. Any more questions, Caroline?
We do have a few more.
Okay.
Let's get them in there. So tips on how to take care of fiddle leaf fig, please. How often should I water, and does it need to be fertilized? So I'd say I get the most questions about this plant with our houseplant section or department here at Bates Nursery. Let it dry out completely between watering, so you can't really get on a watering schedule with this plant, especially as the seasons change. Your watering is going to change with it. Let it dry out all the way. I mean, I let mine get so dry that the soil starts pulling from the pot. You can actually see like a little gap between the pot and the soil. You don't have to necessarily let it get that dry. I'm an underwaterer, but you don't want to keep it wet. I would say that's people's biggest mistake with killing their fiddle leaf figs is they water too much and also incorrectly. So when you go to water it thoroughly, meaning just let the water run all the way through the bottom of the pot into the saucer, or if you put it in your shower or take it outside, just let it drain through. It'll help wash salts out of the soil as well. And it'll help the roots grow towards the bottom, thus making your plant nice and strong. Now, as far as fertilizing goes, now's the time to be fertilizing. It's actively growing since it's summer, it's warm outside. They like a fertilizer with a high nitrogen count, which is the first number that you'll see in those 3 numbers on your fertilizer label. So nitrogen high, usually like 321 is what you're gonna wanna look for. And so fertilize it about once a month right now. Cut off fertilizing about August. And then just let it sit in the winter. And you should be good.
Another thing, too, I think.
Another one of the mistakes I see people make a lot, and I know you do, Caroline, because you deal with it a lot more, is people decide, well, I'm going to move it out onto the patio or onto the deck area from inside the house in a sunny window into the full sun.
Ding dong.
And they absolutely scorch it. They just burn the whole top out of it, and they have no idea. Well, no, it was in a bright sunny window. It shouldn't have hurt it. It's a very different amount of light. It's a common mistake, and it'll make you have to trim it.
Oh, Tyler muted me.
No, I didn't. I just pulled it down.
Tyler, don't make me come over there. Yes, they will burn really, really fast. I'm kind of surprised at how quickly fiddle leaf figs will burn. We actually unloaded a truck last summer, and it was during construction, so we were unloading in the parking lot. And some of the plants sat out for a little too long, and within like 15 minutes, I'd say, in that hot summer sun, a lot of the leaves were scorched. So I had to trim it up, which is fine. I mean, if your leaves scorch, there's no coming back from it, so usually just remove them. I think Austin had something to say about fiddle leaves over there.
Well, I've had a fiddle leaf for years. They're really not all that hard to do, but I think another huge problem they have is that whenever, especially over the winter months into the spring, fiddle leaves look a little different, and they drop their leaves and they go a little bit yellow, and things like that happen. And almost 100% of the time, people think whenever things like that happen, to add water. Not always the case. It rarely is the case, actually. They're just kind of shedding, It's a plant that has to shed some of those old leaves to make room for new ones, get some more light in there. So just because it looks different with some, stuff going on doesn't necessarily mean it needs water. That's not always the first thing to go to. So sometimes it's just natural. It's a tropical plant that lives in Brazil that we bring in our homes in Middle Tennessee in a, cold, wet winter.
Yeah.
So you got to expect it to not like that all the time. So just bear with
our most watched videos out on our YouTube channel is the one about repotting and caring for fiddle leaf figs.
Fiddle leaves.
I mean, I want to say it's got like 30 or 40,000.
Wow.
It's
up there.
It's creeping up on 50,000 now.
Yeah, it's over 50 from last time I saw. I'm pretty sure.
Very,
Like 53,000 views. Check it out.
It's got
I'll
a
teach
lot.
you how to repot one.
Yes, you will. All right, next question. Please discuss pruning trailing annuals like wave petunias and million bells. How and when?
whenever they need it. So whenever you can't stand it anymore, pretty much is whenever it's time to cut those. And there's not too much rhyme or reason to that. For the most part, with petunias and million bell petunias, it's going to be a good amount of deadheading. So you might want to deadhead the plant first, which that just means remove the bloom. And another little tip for you when removing, look, I grow petunias. They're my favorite flower on earth. Everybody knows that about me. And I have to deadhead them all the time. Don't just pull the flower out of so there's this little blossom deal that sits behind the flower. You want to pull both the flower and that thing that's going to hold the seed. So pluck it off. You have to use actually like your fingernails and break it on the main stem, because if you don't, what you get is a lot of seed set on petunias and million bells, and then they don't bloom quite as much after that. So deadhead them, clean them up, and then after that, look at it again and see if it looks good, and if not, if it still looks leggy and stringy, then let's give it a cut back all the way around, uniform around the pot, and you should see a bounce back pretty quickly because they're really free bloomers.
That's a great tip about
I'm
taking
a big proponent of actually taking good sharp shears
snips,
and trimming them, and you can, if you get a good pair of those ARS, they're like very large razor sharp scissors. They're a little dangerous, but they cut exquisitely, and you can make very precision cuts. And I know it's difficult for people to have a plant that's in bloom and to cut all those flowers off. But what you'll get if you cut it right now and then fertilize it in a couple of weeks, it'll be outstanding. So what you perceive to be losing, you're really going to gain it back if you do those things. And I never have been patient enough to do exhaustive deadheading.
See, now we know where this is coming from. Okay.
My grandmother,
yeah.
I know the trick about taking the thumbnail and getting in behind there and pinching the whole stem off. And it's what you want to do. It's like you said, you don't want to leave that seed up in there because it steals energy from the plant, and you want to produce flowers, not seed, likely.
Very, very good.
All right, we got 2 more questions.
Okay.
Where'd it go?
And
there
we
it
got
is.
3 more minutes.
All right. Well, you just ate up some time with that. Best plants for mostly shaded areas. Best hedge, privacy screen for shady areas.
Plum yew comes to mind. Laurels come to mind. Akuba comes to mind as some shade-loving evergreens that'll stand up to that shade. Yeah. Any 3 of those. I really like plum yew. It's a lower growing head. I mean, I'd call it a small hedge. It's not really for screening necessarily. But plum yew is a really excellent plant. It grows fantastically. We've got a whole bunch of them. They get typically a little bit more wide than tall. But it's a good little filler plant, and it's got this kind of different feel about it. It's got these longer, a little bit fatter needles to it. Certainly any 3 of those will work. And I mentioned laurel for the shade. Do know, y'all, laurel will live in the full sun, and it'll live all the way to the full shade. So it's a versatile plant as well. So hopefully those 3 will get you what you need.
Get you what you need. There you go.
I also really like the Himalayan sweet box, which is a great plant. I don't know if we even have any right now, but it's a wonderful little plant, the Sarcococa hookerana. So
it's easy for you to say.
Yeah.
Was that the Tropicant? Speaking of green screens, we have a webinar that is our second most popular on our YouTube page called Green Screens. And it's evergreen screening plants that Austin goes over. It's another great resource for finding the right plant that you need for the function that you want and the look that you want in your home.
Yes. Check out all those webinars.
On that.
All right,
Very good one.
final question. We've almost made it. My pawpaw sapling got snapped in 2. Can I salvage it?
Well, that depends. There's
Did it
not
get
much-
snapped vertically or horizontally?
I'm assuming horizontally.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's in the ground or if it's in a pot, but unfortunately, the only thing we can do now is just kind of wait. Whenever a plant gets snapped. Now, this happens all the time, y'all. There's seedlings, pawpaws in the woods that get either snapped or grazed by animals, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're dead. If that were the case, we wouldn't have trees at all. They got to be able to live past that. So things that do get topped out can regrow, but we kind of just have to wait. I mean, you could try to fertilize, but honestly, if there's no leaves on the plant, you just have to wait for them to crack new ones, and I'm hoping it does for you. Pawpaw can be a little tricky, so if it was small and it got tops, maybe it's not, but maybe it will. Give it some time. Let us know.
Yep.
Perfect. So is there anything that can stimulate that growth?
Like I said, I mean, can try to fertilize, I guess, and you can, but if the fertilizer has to be taken up into some leaves, and the leaves have to be able to use it to really, perform better. So I don't think it's necessarily going to initiate leaves. That kind of just has to happen from buds that were dormant, if you will. So they need to wake up and grow.
Those advantageous buds that are there that are likely have all, well, they all budded out for one thing, and now they've all been broken off likely. So it doesn't mean that they can't regenerate, but it takes a lot more energy for that plant to create that. You might want to simply take a good sharp pair of hand pruners and do a diagonal cut on the top just to keep it, if it's a ragged end on it, to keep water from getting in there and possibly causing some other issue.
Got to have your pawpaws.
But don't fall on it, because it'll be a little sharp little thing.
Are you ready to go? All righty, folks. Music means that this edition is coming to a close, and for the final notification, if you want to go out and look at the profile picture on the At Home Show with Josh Cary and David Bates, you will see, in the tradition of Cheech and Chong and Sammy and Hagar, you will see the two newest members of the Cary family, Jake and Elwood. So they will be there.
There it
came
is.
right down to Thelma and Louise, but
Thanks for your suggestions.
we'll see. Yes, that was absolutely a lot of fun. Okay, folks, for everybody here at the Green Room Studio here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, we thank you for participating in the At Home Show. Go out to YouTube, like, subscribe, share. Do it on the Facebook page. You see it on Twitter if you follow me. We'll see what's going on there as well as going on. Just let the whole world know about the At Home Show, because guess what? We're going to be here next Saturday morning. We're going to do it again right here from the Green Room Studio at Bates Nursery and Garden Center.